I'm Van from QuestMasters, and this episode is about the American WWII M4A3E8 Sherman tank, also known as the EZ-8. The M4 Sherman tank was undoubtedly one of the most famous tanks of World War II, and the two examples I will be talking about here reside in the World War II American Experience Museum in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. So, why is the World War II US M4 tank named Sherman? Well, starting in World War II, American tanks were named after American generals. William Tecumseh Sherman was a Union general officer in the American Civil War that served under General Ulysses S. Grant, which the M3 Grant tank is named after. Starting with its predecessor, the M3 tank actually carried two names, Grant for those designated for Lend-Lease British World War II delivery, and the M3 Lee for those in World War II U.S. service. The next tank design was the Model 4 or M4 tank that was named Sherman. The M4 tank was built as a direct response to the German Panzer IV that had already been designed and operationally used in the invasion of Poland at the beginning of World War II on September 1st, 1939. Production of the M4 Sherman started in 1942, and by the conclusion of World War II, nearly 50,000 of them had been produced. Of the 50,000 Shermans that were made, over 19,000 were issued to the United States Army, and about 1,100 were issued to the United States Marine Corps during World War II. The U.S. also supplied over 17,000 to the United Kingdom, of which some went to the Canadians and the Free Polish Forces, while the Soviet Union received just over 4,000 Sherman tanks, and an estimated 812 were transferred to China. The M4 tank was produced by Chrysler, Lima Locomotive Works, Press Steel Car Company, Pacific Car and Foundry Company, American Locomotive Works Company, Baldwin Locomotive Works, Federal Machine and Welder Company, Ford Motor Company, Pullman Standard Manufacturing Company, and the Fisher Grand Tank Arsenal. The only three companies that built the M4 Sherman until the end of the war were Chrysler, Fisher, and Press Steel. These tanks came with a price tag of $33,000 in World War II, which is equivalent to roughly 550,000 United States dollars in today's money. The Sherman tank was produced in the following models: the M4, M4A1, M4A2, M4A3, M4A4, and the M4A6. The first generation Sherman had a 75mm main gun that dated back to 1897. The second generation Sherman had a 76mm main gun and then a 105mm howitzer, both of which are seen here at the World War II American Experience Museum in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The M4 Sherman was also produced with a flamethrower as the main armament, which was nicknamed Ronson by the GIs, the company that produced lighters in the 1940s. All models of the Sherman tank had a cast steel armored turret, mounted on a cast steel armored body or welded steel armor plate body. The engine of the M4 Sherman is mounted in the rear of the tank. The M4A3E8 is powered by two General Motors diesel engines as fitted in the M4A2 tank used by the British. The M4 Sherman had an average operating range of about 100 miles. The M4 Sherman tank weighed roughly 34 tons, or 68,000 pounds. To put that weight into perspective, that's about 22 Honda Civics. The M4 Sherman tank's front armor was 2 inches thick, with the gun mantlet of the tank being 3 inches thick. In contrast, the German King Tiger tank, or Tiger II, that was also fielded in World War II, had a sloped front armor of 6 inches thick, nearly double that of the M4 Sherman tank. One thing to note, unlike modern and World War II cars, which use either 6-volt or 12-volt systems, the M4 Sherman tank had a 24-volt electrical system. The M4A3E8 Sherman tank, referred to as the E8 because of the E8 suffix in its name, rode on the improved horizontal volute spring suspension HVSS system. With the wider tracks, this new Sherman model had a more improved mobility over earlier versions. Because of the width of the HVSS track, a running board had to be added to the sides of the vehicle. Next, I'm going to talk about the tank shells that were used in the battlefield between 1942 and 1945, and the examples shown here are maintained in the QuestMasters Museum reference collection. First, all large American ordnance was shipped in a wooden 3-sided crate known as a lobster crate because of the similarity in shape to the civilian lobster catching trap that was used in the water. Each shell was shipped in a black, waterproof cardboard fiber container and remained sealed until needed in the field. The smallest rounds I will be discussing are the original 75mm cartridges used in the early Sherman tank. This cartridge dates back to the 1897 field gun used before the First World War. The two cartridges shown here are the black armor-piercing M61 ballistic cap shell and the M48 high explosive shell. In comparison, directly next to them is the 76mm M42A1 high explosive shell that was used in later Sherman tanks. Next to the 76mm cartridge is the armor-piercing 3-inch M79 shell used in the American WWII M10 tank destroyer. Shown here for comparison is a green-painted United States Navy high-explosive shell, which was used on ships during World War II and is nearly the same size as the Army 3-inch cartridge. These cartridges are not interchangeable. The tallest shell being shown here is the German 88mm KWK-36 yellow-painted high-explosive cartridge for the German Tiger I tank. This cartridge is the same one used in the famous Flak 18 88mm gun used against Allied aircraft. The famous 88mm shell could penetrate almost all Allied armor from all directions. The last cartridge in the lineup here is the 90mm armor-piercing shot M77 cartridge used in the American M36 tank destroyer, and lastly, the 105mm high-explosive M1 cartridge used in late versions of the M4 Sherman and also the 105mm Howitzer. Cartridges for the M2 50 caliber machine gun and the three M1919 30 caliber machine guns on the M4 Sherman tank were loaded into cloth belts in steel ammunition boxes. Steel-linked ammunition was originally only issued to aircraft, but was allocated for ground use later in World War II. I hope you've enjoyed this episode about the M4A3E8 Sherman tank. Please like and follow QuestMasters Museum on YouTube and Facebook for more videos.